You ever have one of those moments where you just stop and think, this can't be real life? That's exactly how I felt the morning I caught my neighbor Brenda standing in my yard towel wrapped around her head like a queen plugging her pink hair dryer into my outdoor socket, as if she owned the place. It was one of those sticky, humid mornings in early July, and I was down by the sprinkler system trying to fix a leak when I heard this faint whine, high-pitched, steady, familiar. I followed the sound, rounded the corner, and there she was, leaning over my porch rail cord, stretched across my lawn, like a pink snake slithering right into my outlet. For a second, I thought maybe my wife had decided to blow-dry the dog again, but nope. It was Brenda, the self-appointed enforcer of the neighborhood HOA, powering up her vanity with my electricity. She looked up, saw me standing there, and gave me this casual wave like I was interrupting her spa day. "Oh, hey," she yelled over the roar. "Power's out on my side. Just borrowing a little juice. You don't mind, right?" Her tone was syrupy sweet, but underneath it was that smugness you only hear from people who think rules are for everyone but them. I told her, "Brenda, that's not how this works. You tripped your own breaker last week running that tanning bed and 2 space heaters." She blinked, totally unfazed. "It's temporary," she said. "I've got brunch with the HOA ladies in an hour. I just need to do my roots." And that was that. No shame, no apology. Just the calm confidence of someone who believes the universe owes them unlimited voltage. Now I've lived in Oak Hollow Estates for 12 years. I've rebuilt fences, mowed the common areas, even helped organize a few community BBQs. I'm not a troublemaker. I'm an engineer. Low-voltage systems, mostly solar arrays, the kind of work that teaches you respect for power. But when I saw that cord crossing my yard, something inside me flipped. Not anger exactly, just disbelief mixed with curiosity. I took a picture cord, timestamp everything, and I let it slide. One time. By Monday, she'd come back twice. Once mid-afternoon, once near sunset. Same routine plug-in style, her hair strut off like she'd earned it. I even found a little folding mirror propped against the fence. That's when I realized this wasn't a one-time thing. This was infrastructure. I called the HOA office not to complain, just to ask if there were any guidelines about using someone else's power. The secretary laughed. "Not that I know of," she said, though Mrs. Myers, Brenda just submitted a proposal to restrict outdoor outlets. Says they're a safety hazard. I nearly dropped the phone. She was cutting off everyone else's access while literally draining mine. That's when I started planning not revenge, not yet just contingencies. See, one of the perks of being an engineer is knowing your way around a breaker box. So the next morning, while she was busy borrowing again, I quietly flipped a switch and rerouted that outdoor outlet to a 240V circuit. Perfectly safe for my tools, not so much for a $60 hairdryer. I wasn't trying to hurt her, just send a little wake-up call. A few seconds later came the pop, a sharp buzz, a puff of smoke, and Brenda leapt back like she'd been shot. She screamed, "You broke my hairdryer." I sipped my coffee and said, "You plugged into my house, Brenda." She pointed that fried plastic wand at me like it was Exhibit A. "This is vandalism of communal property." "Communal," I said. "Pretty sure my mortgage doesn't mention that clause." She stormed off, and I thought that was the end of it until I found an HOA violation notice taped to my door. Unauthorized modification of exterior electrical systems signed by none other than Brenda Myers. She wanted a war. And well, she got one. I gathered everything, photos, meter logs, timestamps, and put it in a neat folder labeled The Voltage Chronicles. When the next HOA meeting came around, I showed up early and sat right across from her. She started reading off her notes, trying to sound official. "Mr. Wallace," she said, "has engaged in hazardous tampering." I smiled, slid the folder over, and said, "Funny, because you've been stealing power." The room went silent. A few board members leaned in, looking at the photos, her pink cord, her mirror, her trespassing. For the first time, Brenda didn't have a comeback. But she wasn't done. That woman came back like a villain from a bad sequel. A few days later, I found a new cord orange, this time half buried under my flower bed. She'd come over at night with a shovel and tunneled through the mulch like some suburban spy. I honestly laughed out loud. It was so ridiculous it almost deserved respect. So I set up a decoy outlet, a fake box wired to a voltage logger instead of my house grid. That night, sure enough, she plugged in again. The monitor beeped, the plug sparked, and the next morning she showed up at my door, red-faced, clipboard in hand. "You're violating community cooperation standards," she barked. I just stared. "Brenda, you literally dug into my yard. You're being hostile," she shot back. "The HOA takes harassment seriously. Then maybe they'll take theft seriously too," I said. That week, I upgraded my workshop panel split. The circuits added surge protection and built in a switch that could toggle from 120 to 240 V in a second. I figured if she was going to keep testing boundaries, she might as well learn what resistance felt like. The next time she plugged in, her entire power strip blew. No fire, no injury, just a fried curling iron and a lot of smoke. That was the day 3 HOA board members showed up at my door trying to mediate. I served them coffee, played the footage, and let the evidence speak for itself. They didn't even finish their sentences before one of them muttered, "Well, that clears that up. You'd think that would have ended it. You'd be wrong." Brenda wasn't just addicted to control, she was consumed by it. A few weeks later, my power flickered. When I checked the meter, I found faint clamp marks someone had tried to piggyback off my line. I called the power company, and the technician's face went pale. "You're lucky," he said. "Could have burned your house down." They filed a report, and for the first time, it wasn't my problem anymore. It was hers. The city inspector showed up at her place, dug up the backyard, and found buried cables feeding straight from my line. She tried to smile, offered him cookies, didn't work. By sunset, she was pacing her driveway while the inspector handed her a formal warning. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I just felt tired. You ever win an argument so many times it starts to feel like losing? That's where I was. A week later, her husband Dave knocked on my door. Guy looked like he hadn't slept in a month. "I'm sorry, man," he said. "She's just lost. Thinks she's saving the neighborhood." I poured him a beer, and we sat there in silence for a while. I told him I didn't hate her. I just wanted her to stop. He nodded, said he'd talk to her. I actually believed him. Then 3 nights later, my fence caught fire. Flames climbing up the wood like orange serpents, smoke thick enough to choke on. Firefighters said it started from an extension cord, hers again. They called it accidental. I called it inevitable. The sheriff didn't even need convincing this time. They found her sitting on her porch, eyes glassy, mumbling something about balancing the current. They took her in for evaluation that night. After that, things went quiet. Too quiet. Her house went dark, her car disappeared, and the HOA finally repealed half the nonsense rules she'd forced on everyone. For a few months, Oak Hollow actually felt like a community again. Kids rode bikes, people laughed in their driveways, and I started to believe the storm had passed. But life has a way of testing your peace. 4 months later, a white moving truck pulled into her old driveway. 2 people unloaded furniture, one tall, one shorter, and when the shorter one turned toward the light, I swear my heart skipped. Brenda. Hair shorter, darker, but definitely her. Back under a new LLC name, new deed, same look of quiet control. That night, I watched from my window as lights flickered inside her house. Bright, unnatural, mechanical. Then I heard it, the hum. the same low electric vibration I'd prayed never to hear again. I walked to the window, and across the street she stood in her driveway, coffee cup in hand, smiling like nothing had happened. "Morning, neighbor," she called. I didn't answer. Some currents aren't meant to be reconnected. If you were me, what would you have done? Would you have fought back or walked away? Tell me in the comments, because I'm still not sure where the line between justice and obsession really ends. And if you've ever dealt with a neighbor like that, you know, sometimes the only way to win is to finally pull the plug.